The night the janitor stood up from his booth, pointed at the woman in the Navy uniform and said, "You're coming with me." The diner went silent. No one knew that this single sentence spoken by a man with tired eyes, grease on his sleeves, and a past he never talked about, would unravel a secret the Navy itself had buried for years and change 2 broken lives forever. No one ever noticed the janitor at Rosie's diner. He came in every night after his shift, always at the same time, 10:47 p.m., always ordering the same thing, black coffee, no sugar, and a grilled cheese he barely touched. He sat in the corner booth, back to the wall, eyes scanning the room not out of fear, but habit. The kind you build when life has taught you that disasters never announce themselves. That night, the bell above the diner door rang again. A woman stepped inside. Her uniform was unmistakable dark blue, crisp, marked with the insignia of rank that most people only saw on television. A Navy Admiral, yet something was wrong. Her shoulders sagged as if the weight of that uniform was crushing her. Her cap was tucked under her arm, her hair slightly undone, her face pale and exhausted. She looked less like someone who commanded fleets and more like someone running out of places to hide. She slid into a stool at the counter and asked for water, just water. The janitor's hand froze around his coffee mug. He stared at her not with admiration, not with curiosity, but with recognition. A memory slammed into him so hard his chest tightened. Another diner, another uniform, another night when everything fell apart. The waitress asked the Admiral if she wanted food. She shook her head. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice trembled. She wasn't fine. The janitor watched as her hands began to shake, as she pressed them flat against the counter to steady herself. When she stood up, her knees buckled slightly. She caught herself, embarrassed, scanning the diner to see who noticed. He did, and before he could talk himself out of it, before fear reminded him to stay invisible, he stood up. Boots heavy against the tiled floor. Conversation stopped. The waitress froze mid-step. The Admiral turned, startled, ready to defend herself with words sharp enough to cut steel. The janitor stopped a few feet from her. "You're coming with me," he said quietly. The diner erupted. People whispered. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else muttered about calling the police. The Admiral's eyes flashed with anger and disbelief. "Excuse me," she said, straightening, rank snapping back into place like armor. The janitor didn't raise his voice. He didn't flinch. "You can barely stand. You don't need a reporter, a command officer, or another investigation. You need a safe place tonight." She stared at him, torn between authority and exhaustion. "I don't even know you," she said. He nodded once. "That's why you should come." Silence stretched between them, then something in her face cracked, not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. She exhaled long and shaky. "Fine," she said, one night. The janitor picked up his jacket and held the door open. No one knew that by morning, nothing in either of their lives would ever be the same again. The house was small. 2 bedrooms, peeling paint. A porch that sagged in the middle. But it was warm, clean, and filled with the quiet hum of survival. The Admiral stepped inside and stopped. A pair of tiny shoes by the door. A child's drawing taped to the fridge, stick figures holding hands beneath a crooked sun. "She's asleep," the janitor said softly. "My daughter." The Admiral swallowed. "You live here alone?" He nodded. "Since my wife passed." He poured her tea instead of coffee, set a blanket over her shoulders without asking. She didn't resist. For the first time in years, she didn't have to command, explain, or pretend she was unbreakable. They sat at the kitchen table, the clock ticking loudly in the silence. "I wasn't supposed to be at that diner," she said finally. "I was supposed to testify tomorrow." "About what?" he asked. She hesitated, then her shoulders slumped. "About a failure, a mission that went wrong, about people who want someone to blame." He listened, really listened. No interruptions, no judgment. When she finished, her eyes were wet. "They don't see a person anymore, just a title they can sacrifice." The janitor leaned back. "I know what that's like." He told her about the accident that took his wife, about the company that buried the truth, about how speaking up cost him everything: his career, his reputation, his future, except his daughter. "That's why I clean floors now," he said, "not because I'm weak, because I survived." Tears rolled down her face freely now. Not from shame, but relief. Morning came quietly. His daughter peeked around the corner, curious. The Admiral knelt, smiled gently, and said hello like she'd known her all her life. Something shifted. Days later, when the hearing came, the Admiral didn't stand alone. Evidence surfaced. Old reports, witnesses who had been too afraid to speak. Until someone else did first, the truth came out. Not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. She kept her rank. And the janitor, a letter arrived weeks later. A job offer, not as charity, but recognition, consulting, oversight, accountability. He read it at the same kitchen table. That night, the diner bell rang again. Same time, same booth. This time, the Admiral walked in smiling. "You ever regret telling me to come with you?" she asked. He shook his head. "Some people don't need orders," he said. "They need someone who sees them." The bell rang behind her as she sat down, and for the first time in a long time, neither of them felt alone. Sometimes the bravest rescues don't happen at sea or on battlefields. Sometimes they happen in quiet diners when one broken soul recognizes another and chooses compassion over fear. And sometimes saying "you're coming with me" isn't about control, it's about care.